Coach, obviously things got kind of away from the whole team in the second half, but the first half, how did you feel like you guys had played? It seemed like there were a couple of explosive plays, but overall, how did you feel like the defense was playing at that point?
Not the first drive at all. We ended up giving up, I think, 3 or 4 third down conversions on the first drive, leading to a touchdown. And, I think there were a few times after that in the first half that I think our guys started to respond and play better, but you can't start the game like that. And so I thought that our team needed that start from us. I think we started, it was a 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, and we just didn't execute on the play to stop it. And, we really never stopped it on that drive. So, but we go into halftime, it's 14, whatever it is, and we got a chance, and we come out in the second half, and there's a sudden change, and we took a good step the week before in those opportunities, and they hit a one-on-one and executed. Hats off to them, but the teams that win make those plays, and the teams that lose don't, and we got to do a better job of making them.
Down the stretch, as the scoreboard got wider between the two, how concerned were you about the defense playing like the scoreboard reflected instead of just going and playing the next play?
I mean, I'm not naive to think the scoreboard doesn't get into people's minds, but you tried not to coach that way, and so, it's discouraging when, you get down, and you don't want it to be that way, but you're trying to inspire them every minute, whether you're trying to get them back to center when you're doing well, or you're trying to regroup and make sure that you get focused on the important things when you're down. And so, just got to be better than that. But definitely frustrating when you see the score the way it got to be in the second half.
Coach, they hit 2 pretty wide open plays right up the middle on the pass, one with the flea flicker, one just seemed like a bust. What happened on those 2 plays?
I mean, the flea flicker was just what it is. They handed the ball off, he went in the line of scrimmage, and we got uneasy with our eyes and jumped it, and next thing you know, that's what happens. And so that was a huge play. That was one of the touchdowns. And, the other one that you're talking about, just we got too quick with our eyes off of a route, and thank goodness the mistake was not that it was made, but after that play we created a blocked field goal, which helps, but it doesn't minimize the mistake because that's field position. Now, those are the two, those 2 plays in that first half were big plays, and obviously something that we tried to get cleaned up ASAP. And both times when it happened, there was, Coach, I understand, I made that mistake, but we can't make them. And so I got to constantly find ways to rep those plays in different ways, and but there's got to be some ownership of the players as well, and there was.
They were able to hit a few successful plays on 3rd and long, and that's something you guys strive to get them, and you've been working on it throughout the season. Is there a common thread, common denominator, and why that hasn't been as sharp of an area as you would maybe like it to be this year?
No, there's not a common, if there was, we'd address it ASAP. Working on, on that first drive, there was a play that they've run numerous amount of times out of different sets, and they gave it to us, and we just didn't make the play. We didn't see it fast enough. And then, credit to the quarterback on one of those 3rd downs in that first drive. He got out of the pocket, and then when he got out of the pocket, we took our eyes off of a guy and went to the quarterback, and he found an open ball. The other 2 were 3rd and shorts that they converted. That was on that first drive. The rest of the game, they go 4 for 4 on 3rd downs of the first drive. We were a little bit better as the game went on, but still not good enough, right? One of the plays that he went to on when we got our eyes off of 3 down the seam was a 3rd and long as well on an empty set. So, definitely working to make sure that that doesn't happen. And, we were making some strides in everything isn't everything. We took a step back in the moment on certain plays, but I trust that I'll get it fixed, and, players are creating some ownership as well.
It seems like, and I can't get into the X's and O's of it, but it seems like you guys have tried some different things defensively throughout the course of the year in terms of coverage. And is at what point, like, do you run out of things to keep trying? And what like, going back to 3 years ago, one of the things you complimented Coach Norvell with was not really changing. Like when the team started 0-4, he stayed, can you do that when, you're 5 years into a program, or do you have to look to keep changing things up?
Yeah, well, I think, not going back and saying what I think you meant about when I complimented Mike, I think that wasn't, perceived. That was me just talking about him every day and how he acts and the structure he provides and the consistency he provides. I think schematically you always have to be open to, doing different things. Now, there's certain things that you can't get away from fundamentally, but I think you're always trying, different things, and you're trying to get guys, and because we all want guys to play fast, right? That's the company line that every program says, but playing fast in one call that has a weakness that everybody's doing doesn't really help that, right? So you need to find ways as a coach to maybe adjust. Okay, we've been playing it like this. Teams have finally caught up to that. Or maybe this position isn't as strong as the opponent's position, so you need to adjust because that isn't going to play the same as it did against the other team. And so, Ira, I mean, it's a good question. You're constantly trying to stay in a step ahead, and when you're correcting things, it's hard to get ahead of it because that's two steps, right? You got to correct it, then start to work on the other thing. So, it's our job to anticipate those issues so that you can work ahead. But the season, I mean, you look at college football and, there's teams that think they're this, and next thing you know, they wake up and they're on the other side, and, vice versa. And so, the record is painful to look at right now. And there's been certain strides that I think we've made from that bye week that have shown up. And then it doesn't mean it's showing up all the time. And so it's my job to reflect, look at, and then proceed moving forward of, okay, everything isn't not working, but these things that aren't, like, how do we integrate it? How do we get it corrected in time to go play a good Clemson team? And, that's my job, and that's what I'm on right now.
After the game, I think Coach Lashley said on the first touchdown to their tight end, it was some sort of package they brought in terms of getting you guys to match personnel. It was something that he thought he saw from you guys. And
you're talking about halftime in the second half?
First half, I think. Actually, no, it was second half. It was second half.
Yeah, it was after the sudden change.
Yeah, so
the first drive, yeah.
Do you feel good about it, kind of matchup like that, where a guy like R.J. Maryland is one-on-one outside with a linebacker, or do you hope to be flexible more so in those situations, or was a sudden change part of that problem?
No, I think anytime people put in, 3 tight ends and 1 back, or 2 tight ends and 2 backs, you always have to make a decision of, how do you match up with that? And, we're going to recruit in a way that, if it's a wideout, that's one thing, but, within tight ends, I got all the confidence in Blake. I mean, he's a good coverage player. And, I mean, it was a really good throw and catch. Would like that play to be made. Obviously, in hindsight, you'd like to have Azaria on him, right, and everything. And so, but that's something when teams go big personnel groups and teams get in a short yardage and goal line, you got to make decisions of, what is the matchup. It's the same thing when they go with just 2 tight end sets. There's 2 wideouts on the field. Do you adjust to the wideouts? Or do you adjust to, the formation or the personnel? And, it's all about, what they are. And all due respect to their tight end, he did a good job on that play. But I do expect us to be better.
You mentioned a couple of times players taking ownership of miscues or mistakes. I guess what does that look like on a Sunday meeting? Like, how do they discuss?
Well, usually it happens right after. Usually it's not the next day. Usually when something happens, and sometimes there could be a miscue that doesn't show up, and you got to address because you see it as possibly an advantage for the offense moving forward, or even when you have success and it's not done the right way and you got to go to them. So there's all those opportunities when you coach it right when it happens. Very rarely do you not notice a mistake, and then on Sunday you bring up, hey, why didn't you do that? I mean, hopefully that never happens, but I think the ownership is, because everybody's defensive out there when things don't go well, right? Typically, like, find reasons why it's not your fault, right? It's this, it's that. But I think part of addressing when you're trying to improve mistakes is the first thing comes when you can identify the mistake and you take ownership of the mistake. It's a lot easier to correct those instead of chasing around ghosts of why and how.
Coach Norvell mentioned earlier you guys struggled to set a hard edge in the run game again this week. Is that a coaching issue, or are you seeing anything on film of guys not playing with the right effort and setting a hard edge?
Well, anything that doesn't go well is a coaching issue. So we're all clear with that, right? Because we put the player out there. We tell them to do this. And if it doesn't happen, it goes back to Brendan's question. Like, you don't say, well, I told them, it's not my fault. That's not good ball. And so you got to own all that. I did think we've done a better job of inside plays and when they bounce setting edges, but they got the ball in the perimeter a couple times, and we got to be better at corner and of just setting those edges when they come, or even if that's on safety when plays bounce, just some of the fly and perimeter sweeps.
You talked about college football. There's so many teams that they think they're one place, they wake up and they see they're on the other side of things. Mike called back to a remark he made in the preseason where he talked about just how much he liked this team, but you never truly know until that sort of moment of truth, which are these games. But when you find yourself at this point, like 1-4, what are the kind of questions you guys can ask to help get as much clarity as you guys can as a staff to figure out why you guys are indeed where you're at?
Not sure. So questions that we would ask of
as coaches, as a staff, when you guys have meetings, what are the things?
Yeah, we got to stop them on third down. Like that'll help us not be 1-4. We got to obviously set the edge a little bit better on some of the perimeter runs. I don't know if I'm answering your question great. I don't know if it's more of a philosophical question or just a nuts and bolts question.
More philosophical in terms of just how, not just you guys, but as coaches, how can the assessment in the preseason not connect to how things look after 5 games across the country in your history?
Well, if you go back, there's probably nobody that comes out of preseason saying they think they're going to start out 1-4. That usually doesn't happen. I think importantly of trying to find what your strengths are, going into each week and then trying to play to those strengths, I think is probably a very valid way to look at it, when you're coming out of preseason, because you're really going against each other. But it's our jobs, because I do think one of the most important jobs as a coach, I think the best attribute is your evaluation skills. Whether that comes of who you acquire as assistant coaches, players, where you put them positionally, or how you view an opponent. I think the ability to identify those are really important.
You got some opportunities to play some younger players on defense. I know it's not really a group, it's individuals, but anybody kind of catch your eye, or what did you think of the opportunity that those guys got?
Really, I still think Quindarius is, earning his playing time. We got Edwin more involved, just at more nickel. He was coming off of that Cal game. We keep giving him more and more, so that will continue because, he's been somebody that he's earned more opportunities, but as you give to him, you've seen his preparation and his mindset or, connectiveness to what's going on even elevate more, which is really the way you want it to look, right? But things are going to happen. Like, in the game, they hit him on one ball, which it's part of playing DB, right? I mean, balls are going to come your way, and, it's a make or break type of situation. But, Ed, and really, there was nobody in this game that we said, okay, this guy is going to play more. It's, it's been Juice, it's been obviously Blake at linebacker, it's been Quinn, it's been Ed, it's been Conrad. Jabril Rawls showed up on special teams, and, he's been getting a little bit more activity. And then, Byron went down in the game, so Hester kind of gave that fourth DN role a little bit. So that would really be the only one that played a little bit more of a role than he had in the first couple weeks.
Is there anything that you guys can kind of pinpoint about Cade Klubnik and just how far seemingly he's come in one season and how much more dangerous that offense seems this year as opposed to last year?
Yeah. I mean, I thought last year he was a talented player, quick release, good mover, pretty accurate with the football. I think he's really stayed away from turning the ball over this year, which has helped him. You know, they had some exchange issues last year. Those aren't showing up as much, which has helped them hold on the ball. And, you know, they've been the first game was obviously not what they wanted, but they've been on a roll since, especially offensively, doing a really good job. And it starts with him. I think his accuracy on down the field balls have been outstanding. And he's dangerous with his feet. You know, there were times even last year in our game that, you know, they were going to just try to run him and get as many blockers in front of him as possible. They were safe plays, so they still have that in their offense too. But I just think his ability to throw the ball down the field with accuracy right now, and just, you know, he's a year older, so, you know, everybody wants to label guys as failures or superstars early, and, you know, I think he's really starting to come into his own. But we've all seen the skills of him, and I just think he's playing with a little bit more ball security right now and doing a better job with it, and they've been having success because of it.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. See y'all. Yep. See you guys.